Have you ever stopped to think about where your digital life actually lives? You know, all those photos, documents, and videos? We're all creating these massive mountains of data, and honestly, keeping it all safe can feel kind of overwhelming. Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on cloud storage and show how it brings some serious order to all that digital chaos.
And when I say mountains of data, I am not kidding. I mean, some of us remember when a floppy disk that held a whopping 1.2 megabytes felt like a huge deal. Today, the cloud holds zettabytes of data. That's a 1 with 21 zeros after it. It's pretty obvious that our old habits of just hitting save on a physical disk just can't keep up anymore.
So yeah, this data explosion basically forced a complete shift in how we think about storage, moving us away from hardware we can physically touch and into the kind of abstract, virtual world of the cloud.
At its heart, the difference is actually really simple. On-premise means you buy, own, and take care of your own physical servers. Think of it like owning a house. All the responsibility is on you. The cloud, on the other hand, is much more like renting. You just pay a provider to use their servers, and you can scale up or down whenever you need to, without that huge upfront cost.
And this really lays out the trade-offs, right? On-prem gives you total hands-on control, especially over security, but it costs a ton up front and it's not very flexible. The cloud totally flips that on its head. You give up a little of that direct control, but in return you get unbelievable scalability and a simple pay-as-you-go price tag.
Okay, so we've kind of covered the why we moved to the cloud. Now let's dig into the what. What exactly is cloud storage anyway?
To put it as simply as possible, it's a service that lets you store your data over the internet. You can get to it from anywhere, you only pay for what you actually use, and, get this, it is incredibly durable. We're talking 99.119% durability. That means the odds of your data just vanishing into thin air are practically zero.
But cloud storage isn't just one single thing. It really comes in three main flavors. You can think of object storage like a massive digital closet for unstructured stuff like photos and videos. Block storage is more like a high-performance engine for databases, chopping data into fast, uniform pieces. And file storage? Well, that's the classic shared network drive you already know and love, just living up in the cloud.
All right, but here's where it gets really smart. This next idea, this is the big aha moment. This is the secret sauce that makes the cloud so incredibly powerful and cost-effective. Let me just ask you this. Think about all the files you have. Should that big report you're working on right this second be stored in the exact same way as, say, your vacation photos from a decade ago? Of course not, right? And the cloud is built entirely around that simple idea.
This pyramid shows the solution perfectly. It's a concept called storage tiering. Up at the top, you have your hot data, the files you need instantly. That storage is the fastest, but it's also the most expensive. As you move down the pyramid, the data gets colder. You access it less, so the storage can be slower and, more importantly, way cheaper.
See, it all boils down to this really simple trade-off. Hot data means you access it all the time, so you pay more for high performance. Cold data means you barely ever touch it, so you pay very little for low performance. The entire game is just about matching the value of your data to the cost of storing it. It's that simple.
And hey, this isn't just some abstract theory. Let's take a quick look at how the biggest names in the business, the cloud giants, are putting this exact strategy to work right now.
So first up, you've got Amazon Web Services, or AWS. They offer a whole spectrum of these storage classes. S3 Standard is for your everyday, active, hot data. Then they have tiers for stuff you use less often, all the way down to a service called Glacier Deep Archive, which is basically for digital deep freeze, long-term archiving at a tiny fraction of the cost.
Next is Microsoft Azure. They use a very similar temperature analogy for what they call blob storage, which is just their name for object storage. You've got hot, cool, and cold tiers, plus an archive tier for data you might not look at for years. It's the same core idea. You match the access speed you need to the price you want to pay. And then you have Google Cloud, which kind of takes this a step further by automating the whole thing. If a file in their standard storage isn't touched for 30 days, boom, it automatically moves to what they call nearline. After another 90 days of no activity, it shifts to cold line. You literally don't have to lift a finger. That kind of automation is a complete game changer for managing your costs.
Which brings us right to our last section, the real pro move. So how do you manage all of this tiering without spending your life manually moving files around? Simple. You automate it. You do this using something called a lifecycle management policy. It's basically just a set of rules you create that tells the cloud what to do with your data as it gets older. You could call it the set it and forget it magic of smart cloud storage.
This right here is a perfect example. A file gets uploaded to the Hot S3 standard tier. The lifecycle rule kicks in and says, okay, after 30 days, let's move it to infrequent access. Then, 60 days after that, we'll shift it to the deep freeze of Glacier. And finally, after 465 days, just delete it entirely. All of this happens automatically, no human needed.
Okay, but you might be thinking, this is great, but what if I accidentally delete something important? That's a fantastic question, and the cloud has a built-in answer for that too. It's called versioning, and it is your ultimate safety net.
Here's how simple it is. Every time you save over a file, the cloud doesn't actually throw the old one away. It just keeps it as a previous version. And if you delete a file, it just puts a little invisible marker on it. The old versions are still there, totally safe and sound, just waiting to be recovered if you realize you made a mistake.
So you see, it all comes back to this one single powerful idea, aligning the cost of storing your data with its actual value. You pay a premium for what's important right now, and you save a ton of money on what might only be important later. That is the secret to getting your data under control.
So you've done it. You've taken your data from chaos to control. It's tiered, it's automated, and it's protected. By perfectly aligning cost to value, you've pretty much mastered the technical side of things. But the journey isn't quite over. The real challenge now is making sure this smart, efficient system also checks every single box for your legal and compliance rules. And getting that right, well, that's the true final step in moving from chaos to complete control.